welcome to episode 51 of the Hipsters United podcast. My name is Chris, and joining me this week are Jason.
Hi.
Jill.
Hello.
And Andrew.
Hello.
And we've had a few one-topic podcasts in a row here, so this week we're going to go through the recent Pumpkins news of the past few weeks, including Gothageddon, which you just heard the intro music for there. But first off, Billy Corgan made a short announcement on SmashingPumpkins.com about his progress with the initial releases for Teargarden by Kaleidyscope. Billy is on the third of 4 mixes for the songs slated for the first EP, and the first song to be released is right around the corner, as he's put it. I think we've got a pretty good idea about which songs have been recorded so far. We've seen video clips of Astral Planes and A Song for a Sun, and we've read Billy talking a lot about A Stitch in Time. Do we know the fourth song? I can't remember offhand.
We think it's Widow Wake My Mind.
Yes, that's right. So we're pretty sure those are the 4 songs that he's going to go with for the first EP, but we don't know exactly which one is going to be the first song that he releases. I think I know which song I would release first, but what about all of you? Andrew, what would you release first to start Teargarden off with a bang?
Well, I guess...
Come on, we're all going to say this.
Okay.
Can't believe this.
Well, I'm gonna go. Okay, all right. I'm gonna go with what I heard, just because it was what the last new thing that came out of the Carrie's video or Twitbid stream, which was the mixing song for a Sun. Sounded very cool, and that's what I'll say. I'm looking forward to. Might not be the right.
Yes, it should be A Song for a Sun. It's a sure hit.
Okay.
That should be the first song. People have complained about his single choices forever. I mean, I don't think all of those complaints are justified, but he's got a sure hit, and if he picks any of the others, it's a mistake. From wanting a hit standpoint, maybe he doesn't want a hit. But
he did want to release Jelly Belly over Bullet with Butterfly Wings, so back in the day.
It's true.
This may be a bit hyperbolic, but I actually think Song for a Sun could be the Through the Eyes of Ruby for the new millennium. And Billy couldn't release Through the Eyes of Ruby as a single back when Melancholy came out because it was so long, and this was the radio era of the mid-90s when his songs had to be 3 or 4 minutes long to be a single. And as a result, it's a fan favorite, but probably not well known outside of the Pumpkins fan base. But, whatever he releases first for Teargarden is going to get a lot of attention. This could be a chance to give another high-quality Ruby-like song a bigger audience. What were you trying to say, Jason?
Yeah, I was just going to say the analogy fails because he didn't put out Ruby and it didn't have the impact that you might like to hope it would have. Mayonnaise would have been a better comparison, I think. Because, that song has had a bigger impact among fans than I think Through the Eyes of Ruby had. The Through the Eyes of Ruby fans are vocal, but you go to see the Pumpkins in concert, when they play Mayonnaise, they might as well be playing one of their singles. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I still think if Ruby was in a format that they could have released on the radio, though. I mean, everyone kind of agrees Through the Eyes of Ruby is a fantastic song.
Everyone agrees Mayonnaise is a fantastic song.
But why? I guess I would wonder why Song for a Sun first. I mean, is that going to really set the tone for the entire rest of the album? I think it's quite a bit different than some of the other songs.
I'm sorry. I think that sort of complaint is too intellectual. This is properly set the tone. I mean, it sounds like some bullshit Pitchfork would say. No offense, but I just mean it's a hit song. It's an immediate song. Everyone has had an immediate reaction to it. That is what will make it successful, and what they need is a successful song. A song that grabs people, and that is the one.
Sure, but
whether it's
again,
set the tone or is like the other songs, I just think I be honest, no, that carries zero weight with me at all. I don't even see the point of that. I don't understand it.
But it all goes back to what Billy is going to want to set the tone for the entire album.
Who says he has to want first single to set a tone? Why can't he just want it to be successful? I mean, why do we ascribe that particular drive to him? Why do first singles have to set tones for albums? It doesn't seem like a necessary clean. I'm sorry for being so aggressive about this. I just don't get it. I mean, this is the exact sort of thing that drives me nuts about the whole, like, music criticism industry, is like this sort of intellectualized thinking about music. Reacting to it, you know?
But use the Smashing Pumpkins' own choices for single releases in his historical context. You look back at, albums like Siamese Dream, Melancholy. It was never the first single that achieved, like, universal appeal, because it was always the second or third ones that came out that really had a lasting impact. Like, I mean, I think Bullet has obviously a lasting impact, but when you think of the grandiose acclaim that they used to get during Melancholy days, you're thinking of the Tonight Tonight video or the 1979 video. You're looking at, a more commercial appeal as opposed to the first single, which, was hard rock, but it didn't appeal to a really, top 40 crowd necessarily. I don't know. I'm just saying, like,
I think they may only get one shot. This Teargarden thing. I think they may only get one shot, because there isn't. I mean, in those days, there was this concept of, like, okay, your label is going to push singles to radio and all this stuff, And I mean, with Glow, the Pumpkins, they hired these people. I mean, obviously there are these people who will promote songs to radio, and you hire them and you pay them. But I mean, I don't know. They're going to get a definite splash with the first song. I don't think anything after that is guaranteed at all.
Yeah.
With this project, I just don't. I don't know. What? So you think he should choose?
Yeah, I was going to say, Jill, do you think one of those other three songs better represents the material, at least what we've heard of the material?
From what it seems like in press and in what he's doing and what he's chosen to communicate about himself recently, it's been, all about the psychedelic. He's, like, feeling psychedelic, and he's feeling, like, these relationships of these, feeling the relationships that he's built within the community that he's been working in for the last 6 to 9 months. And the majority of that atmosphere is not traditional for him. And I see, like, Song for a Son as the least departure from the old Smashing Pumpkins that I know. Maybe they've reproduced it into something that is more psychedelic, and so therefore would fit this mood that he is striving towards. But I think there's a certain, when you're releasing an album one track at a time, you're trying to take somebody on a ride, I think. And I don't know if he would make the most obvious choice up front. I agree with Jason that it might be the only chance that the band gets, but I'm not sure that, I just don't know, I could foreseeably pick Would Awake My Mind as, like, a jammy, like, groovy driving song to kick off the album with, like, really good cheer, kind of like Zwan used to do when you, I don't know.
Well, that song might work. I mean, it's a...
Because it's like, it's really communal almost. It's like a sing-along, blah, blah, blah. I'm just saying, like, I really don't know.
Jill, by own argument, that makes it the second single.
Oh, gosh.
See, from what we've heard of A Song for a Son so far, I actually think it does sound a little bit more psychedelic than it did when they played it last year. Yeah,
that's what, certainly the clip that got posted by Carrie on the video this past couple days ago, certainly was not a huge departure, but certainly was something, definitely an evolution from what it sounded like during the little mini tour a few months ago. So, I I'm no music entomologist or what expert at picking musicologist on picking what that exactly the right word for that sound is, but it's like it. I could call it psychedelic.
You could never work at Pandora.
There you go. That's exactly right. I just failed my Pandora interview.
The question is, how is the indie press going to write off A Song for the Sun? Corgan reaching shamelessly for his old sound, looking for inspiration, but new drummer Mike Byrne fails the test. Corgan tries to solo wildly to distract you from his teenaged drummer.
See, I think Song for a Son is also a good choice because it sounds more like the old Pumpkins. It's a way for him to draw people in who maybe were older fans, who may not otherwise be interested. If he does start off with something that's very different, then he may alienate people who otherwise would get interested in the project and grow to enjoy it.
So it'll be like in like a lamb and out like a lion. It's like going to be a 1-2 psychedelic punch. Draw 'em in.
Exactly.
You still got Freak in the bullpen waiting to come out, close it out, close the deal.
Freak is the Mariano River.
Brings.
Yes. Exactly.
I think they
Song
have
number
a few.
44 to be released in February 2012.
12, yeah.
It seems so far off. It really is a hugely ambitious project when you think about it. Like, 44 songs. It's definitely going to be a long journey.
Well, if he just took 6 to 8 weeks to do 4 songs, he's got to go back into the studio for 6 weeks, 10 more times.
Oh.
Well, hopefully we get the first song pretty soon.
Eating nothing but seaweed and raw nuts in preparation for this album. So it should go.
Yeah, I guess the next piece of news from the past couple of weeks is the biggest piece of news of the past few weeks involving puppets, and that was Gothageddon. That's pretty much my reaction to Gothageddon is the
Nice transition.
Blank silence. So did any of you tune in live and watch it? I know Jason and I did.
I didn't mean to.
I did totally by accident because I believe it was scheduled to start at 9 o'clock, and I thought I had missed it, but I came online anyway, and I saw that it was just about to start.
Yeah, it was out, came in, and apparently it hadn't ended, or even began.
Yeah,
I've seen part of it.
I watched
Enough of it to get a very good idea.
Somebody's not prepared for the podcast.
I watched it the following morning. I was not online that night. I did sit through the whole thing the next day.
It was a Don Brooke. I mean,
Billy doing all the voices was definitely the highlight.
Oh,
we're not going to explain what Gothageddon was. For those of you just joining us, some kind of puppet show about wrestling. Billy Corgan voiced the puppets. Robert Smith was wrestling Billy Corgan as dolls.
A doll that vaguely looked like James Eha was involved. I used the word vaguely quite.
The Pumpkins were reunited again in pain and victory as Eha turned on Smith. I'm sorry, he turned on Robert the Crawfish Smith.
Jason, you were telling me that your highlight was Billy doing the Billy Corgan impersonation.
Yeah, he raises his voice to himself. So, it seemed to get rave reviews from the people at Chicagoist and Canada's Chart Attack. That would be Tank Boy and Kate Harper, respectively. Noted Pumpkins, or noted Corgan critics of the random Google News search in the past. They embraced Gothageddon. It was showed them a sense of humor that they didn't think Billy Corgan had in him.
It's really the only way you can take it. I mean, I can't imagine how anyone could take that seriously.
Some people tried, but that was before it actually happened.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, Pitchfork wrote up something about it before it happened, and it was, like, laughably serious. I mean, their report was like, "We have confirmed that Corgan will be controlling his own doll."
Did they call Billy's publicist to find that out?
Yes.
And they made it sound like it was some sort of, like, video game, but in real life or something. I mean, it's totally bizarre. Then when it actually happened, it was, like, really funny, actually. I mean, silly. I don't know if it was funny. It was silly. I thought it was funny. Of course I thought it was funny. I like everything Billy does. But yeah, after you saw it, there's no way you could report on it except to say, screwing around, self-joking, and it was funny, And
well, technically, I think you can imply that Billy Corgan has lost whatever it may be. And I saw plenty of that come across my Google News feed as well. So
it's the 7th time he's lost it this year.
Yes. Although I think that most of whom, a majority of the articles I read about it, yes. The majority of the articles I read about it, at least this time around, said it seemed intentional, as opposed to totally losing it unintentionally, because you're just not able to possess it.
Well, it's rare that there's video footage of what you're saying constitutes Billy losing it, right? And, a prominent...
Oh, this is going to go no place good.
What's that?
This is going to go no place good. Debating the metaphysical part.
Clear this year, a prominent example of Billy losing it for the whatever. I don't think he can go. Shut up. I'll just say it. Okay, so his wrapped version of Bullet with Butterfly Wings for the Wrestling Federation or whatever.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, there was video of that, but I don't know. There wasn't.
It was dry.
For some reason, people took that seriously. I still to this day cannot understand what they think Billy thought about that. They seem to think he was being really serious or something, or some people seem to think he wasn't being serious, but that maybe he should have been because Bullet with Butterfly Wings should be treated with reverence or something. I think that was like the Rolling. I seriously think Rolling Stone. That sticks out of my mind. I have to double check, but I think it was Rolling Stone who basically took that approach to it. Like he defiled the spirit of the song. It was the most absurd thing.
It was like the Beatles using Revolution to sell Nikes, right? It's just about the same level.
It's only rock and roll. But I'll bet any amount of money I've got that, it was meant to be not too serious. So I don't know, but that was taken.
Are you suggesting that a wrestling network?
Since of him losing it, So who knows? I mean, I guess people think that sort of thing is serious. I don't know.
Anyone that thinks that a wrestling network that's called Total Nonstop Action Wrestling or TNA is serious.
It's a clever double entendre.
Clever.
But Jill, Billy Corgan didn't understand that. He was just trying to make money selling out.
Selling out to them.
Because they paid him, I heard, upwards of $500,000 for that little video.
That's,
actual figure total.
I heard that if you do that, you might be a redneck. You sell out for millions of dollars. So.
See, I don't think it's really selling out if it's something that you really would promote. I mean, we know that Billy, one of the 5 websites that he visits...
Steel cage!
One of the 5 websites he visits is a wrestling site. Billy has a long storied history of being a huge wrestling fan.
Ruined melancholy for me. Alright. Tangent over. Gothageddon.
Yeah.
Silly, funny, a lark, a run in the park, time off in the studio. Billy should have been working on music. Why?
If it wasn't for Gothageddon, we already would have had the first song released,
Right. WTF.
Stealing our time, Billy.
In other news this week, we finally got some news about Jimmy Chamberlin and his musical career post-Pumpkins. It turns out Jimmy is working with another singer-songwriter. I think that there was some speculation that he was going to be jumping right back in with the Jimmy Chamberlin complex. But it looks like, for right now, he is working with a singer-songwriter from DC named Mike Reyna.
That's right.
But the new band does not have a name yet, so we have no name to attach to it.
But the important news is that Jimmy has finally hired his replacement for Billy Corgan.
Oh, wah wah.
Chamberlin has hired some guy named Mike to fill in on guitar, songwriting, and studio sweeping.
If only Mike were 18, that would have totally taken the wind out of Billy Corgan's sails.
Because no 19-year-olds ever create any valid music. I think we know the history of rock and roll. Usually performed by men over 45.
Middle-aged men, yes.
Right.
But it turns out Jimmy hates blogging, so I guess we won't be hearing too much about it unless he does some other interviews or drum clinics or other such events.
It's totally taking it out of context, but I love when he said, I hate talking about music. I mean, it actually does say it, and I felt bad transcribing it because I'm like, I don't think he really means that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it should be pretty cool, I hope. I didn't listen to any of Mike Reina's music, but, I mean, he's influenced by Queen. How bad can he be?
That's basically what his last name means.
What's that? Reina?
Well, that's deep. That's true.
French for Queen? Is that what you're saying? Jill?
Yes.
I don't understand.
I believe Reina is queen in another language, but in French it's very close. Anyway.
So, yeah, 12 to 15 new songs. Release the material in March. Gonna be head-to-head with Teargarden. Whose partnership with a guy named Mike will work out better.
Yes.
If only Tinted Windows had something coming out at the same time, then we could really see who was the brains behind the Smashing Pumpkins.
Zeitgeist Awfulness was a tribute to Iha's talent. Also, by the way, Tinted Windows sucks. I'm sorry. I'm not saying that. That was the Harvard Crimson's take on it. The guy who reviewed the Tinted Windows album. He said it was terrible. He gave it 2 stars. But then he said Zeitgeist was bad because James Iha wasn't on it. And I was like, the James Iha Tinted Windows album, but that sucked too.
It
Didn't make any sense.
Must have been Bunny Carlos, maybe. Ruined Tinted Windows,
perhaps.
Someone else ruined Tinted Windows.
How could the guy from Hanson make a good album? It's impossible.
Well, finally, the swine flu continues to be a hot topic in the news, especially as it coincides with the healthcare debate that's been raging in Washington. Unfortunately, this is a little more serious topic than our last few. This is a little more serious than Gothageddon. But Billy chimed in with his thoughts about the swine flu on everythingfromheretothere.com. And normally I would toss it off to you guys and ask some question and let you guys go at it, but this is something that I've actually been commenting on HU quite a bit about lately. So, yeah, I want to start out talking about this.
The SmackDown.
Yeah, well, it's not totally a SmackDown. I mean, first of all, I commented about this for those of you that didn't see my column, though. I think Billy's overall sentiments were pretty reasonable. I mean, he talked about the culture of fear that's been pervasive in politics and the media lately, and he says that, quote, scaring the daylights out of you over a virus or an unseen enemy only weakens us. Calm, open debate and logical thought drive strength to its maximum effectiveness, unquote. I mean, I agree completely with that, like 100%. But Billy also then slips in a sentiment that is neither calm nor logical, and he says, quote, I would suggest, however, that it is possible the virus is not a naturally occurring virus. I have read reports from people who say, as doctors, that there is evidence to suggest that this virus was created by man. To call it swine flu is then a misnomer, as it really is swine flu, plus some other stuff stitched together. These doctors said such genetic mutation was impossible in nature, unquote. Bringing up the possibility of a grand conspiracy to make people sick, a theory of which, as of now, has no evidence, despite what Billy says, is plain and simple spreading unnecessary fear. And I mean, this is exactly what Billy seems to be against in the whole rest of this post. And I mean, this battle has escalated quite a bit lately, the battle of rationality and evidence versus gut instinct and fear. And the anti-vaccinationist movement, who mostly, up until now, mostly had focused on childhood vaccines and their as of yet unproven link to autism, have used fear effectively to prey upon confused parents who only want what's best for their children. And, I mean, you can't prove a negative, so a responsible scientist can't say vaccines don't cause autism. A responsible scientist can only say there is no evidence for any link between vaccines and autism, and the proposed mechanisms for cause, like thimerosal, which is always what was brought up, have been proven to have no effect. And this isn't the categorical statement that an anti-vaccinationist can make. My child got autism from a vaccine. That's categorical, like facts, in their mind a fact at least. I mean, there's no evidence that this is actually what happened, but it really hits you hard as a parent, much more so than, in my studies in my lab we don't find a link. So, I mean, Billy is unwittingly aiding in this same system of fear, uncertainty, and doubt that he claims to be against. So, I mean, that's pretty much what I have to say about the whole thing. It's everything from here to there is very kind of disconcerting to me and unfortunate, because Billy does, I think, have some good things to say, but then he just mixes in this stuff about conspiracy theories and things that, I don't know, he really shouldn't be getting involved with. As he said in one of his other posts, he only reads 5 internet sites, and he suggested to people that they read less things on the internet, and I think he said one of the sites was a sports news site and one of them was a wrestling site. But for someone who only visits 5 websites, he sure does encounter a lot of crazy conspiracy theories and, grand conspiracies and things. Like, I likened it in a comment to my grandmother passing along chain letters that she gets without bothering to verify whether they're true or not. But I don't know. This is why I've been trying to ignore it.
He's like an average American in this way.
Yeah.
Which is kind of understandable, I think. I mean, to me, Billy is a specialist in music, right? I mean, I don't really expect him to be on point about all this stuff, and yet there are people out there venting all sorts of stupid opinions all day long about stuff they don't know anything about, But I agree with you at the same time, Chris. It's like, should he be talking about this? No, I don't think so. So when I say that everyone's doing it, that doesn't excuse it, right? It's just kind of recognizing it as a common flaw or whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, if I could suggest, if Billy's listening, which he's not, if I could suggest a 6th website to read, it would be Wikipedia. And, a lot of people go, oh my gosh, Wikipedia, anyone can edit it, blah, blah, blah. That process by which Wikipedia operates, it gets close more often than not, And you can go on Wikipedia and find all sorts of information about this virus that seems pretty accurate to me. And,
And unlike these other sites that Billy is linked to, he's linked to some more even since making that post. Wikipedia actually has citations, so you can go back and read where the information comes from.
That's exactly right. So, I mean, Wikipedia, it's not peer reviewed, but it's close. It's something close to it, and it's something. It's a nice bridge between the real scientific community and something more populist that we can all go look at. So I think it's definitely a valuable place to go, and he should start going there. When he reads some weird thing, when you hear about a September 11th conspiracy theory, you should go to Wikipedia, because chances are it's been thoroughly considered and found lacking, and there will be plenty of counter evidence to whatever you think you've read, right? And it's the same thing with these other things that are going on. But Billy, on this one, he's getting used as an example. Particularly, I noted by these UK tabloids. They kind of The Guardian. I don't know if it's technically a tabloid. Tabloid is just a format. But they had this headline: Billy Corgan, swine flu was created by man, which he says it's possible. I mean, yeah, he brings it up and he says it's possible. So I mean, that's a slight extrapolation from what he said. And then they just kind of lecture him and use him as an example of someone who's stupid and you should not think like in the article, which is kind of understandable, if you're trying to help the general public see the truth about this virus, right? But the danger, and I think this is something that our blog, I think, functions as a restraint against. The danger is kind of a throwing out of the baby with the bathwater with regard to Billy Corgan. I mean, in the specific example of our blog, but you could do this with anybody, right? I mean, it's this notion that the man's flaws kind of mean that you should never listen to him and you should not listen to his music and he has nothing valuable to contribute, right? And I just think that's a very blind and very arrogant attitude, because we all hold some stupid beliefs, we all have whatever areas where we don't live up to whatever. And bottom line is, I think Billy's music is great. I think a lot of people think that. I'm not here to tell you that it is, but because some musician doesn't pay enough attention to some virus and he kind of talks like your grandmother sometimes, I mean, you know, I'm not going to, like, go around and say, I mean, you know, you can have it both ways. You can be like, yeah, he's wrong about this, but he's right about other things. So.
And I think even just in this one post, he's wrong about that specific paragraph where he says, and you're right, he doesn't say, you know, Barack Obama has created this virus to do whatever reason anyone would have of creating a virus like this. Which
he's smart enough not to say something that is, like, definitely wrong.
Right.
You know, he always couches it. I mean, in some ways, it's kind of like an academic almost.
But even outside of that one paragraph, the rest of the post is pretty reasonable. I mean, he says that there's a lot of people spreading fear about things, and I mean, he's right. It's you can't really argue with that.
I noticed some people making fun of him because he was complaining that, you know, he said something like, "Oh, the state of Massachusetts is considering a bill to make the immunization mandatory, and that would be bad." You know, and a lot of people were criticizing him, like, "Yeah, that bill doesn't really exist." Ha! And it's like, okay, he's wrong on the fact, but doesn't everyone agree with him that mandatory immunization would be bad? And everyone does seem to think so. So, you know, maybe he doesn't have the legislative fact correct or whatever, but, you know, his sentiment is correct on that would be a bad bill, right? So,
yeah, I mean, the only thing that's kind of unfortunate about that is it does kind of it almost makes people think that, oh, well, you know, maybe the government is... It kind of lends credence to a government conspiracy theory.
Sure. No, I agree. It's not ideal, again, but I'm just kind of saying that, you know, there's a hidden correctness in the... in even some of the bad parts.
Yeah.
But, sure, I mean, should you be reading Billy Corgan's views on vaccines and taking them very seriously? I would say not.
He even says not to. I mean, I gave him credit for this in my comment, too. Like, he comes out there and dedicates a whole paragraph to saying that he's not a doctor. And, I mean, it's totally obvious, and he shouldn't have to say it, but, you know, it's kind of refreshing, because when you see the people who normally get in this debate online or on television, they don't come out and say that. Jenny McCarthy doesn't come out and say, well, I'm not a doctor and have no medical experience, but I'm telling you that, you know, vaccines cause autism.
And, you know, the next day he made a blog post that, of course, got far less attention. But I tried to highlight it on HU a bit. And the blog post the next day happened to be about Billy saying, you know, I used to restrain myself, and now I just let it all out. He was like, I just say it now. I just shoot from the hip, and I find it better, you know? And I'm like, now he talks and blogs like he does his music. He just lets it out, you know. And he talks about that in the DLFTV interview that's coming up too. He talks about how he thinks it makes art less successful when you listen to the voice that tells you that something is bad or not good, which doesn't quite make sense, because I know Billy Corgan is listening to a particular voice about what's good in his music. He's still getting at something, which is like, maybe it's a voice that says, I like this, but I don't know. You know what I mean? And in those marginal cases, he's saying, don't listen to that voice, go with it, right? And I like that. I've always liked the opportunity to have all, quote unquote, have Billy's songs, and then if there are ones I don't like, I don't have to listen to them, you know? But I like being able to be that editor myself, and I don't like it when critics are always saying, Billy Corgan needs an editor. I'm like, I'll do it for myself. You can do it for yourself, and then we're all better off, right? And, but that said, you know, does that necessarily hold in this quasi-political arena that he gets into on his blog? I just let it out. Not as crazy about it there, but, you know, whatever.
Yeah, I don't know if he needs an editor. He does need to take his own advice about calm and rationality, though. But, I mean, it's a journey of exploration for him, I'm sure, doing this whole everything from here to there blog. Maybe he will eventually see the light. But did I miss anything? Did any other news happen in the past couple of weeks since our last podcast?
Chuck Biscuits died.
Yeah, I heard that somewhere.
Yeah.
That's true.
Must be true.
I also learned who Chuck Biscuits is.
Yeah.
We got to
Well,
hear
the
about the lunch auction. Yeah, I was just gonna say.
That auction update, and then also the bass and the drums for charity. Brought in a hefty thumb.
And another band, Billy announced another band that he's taking part in, the Backwards Clock Society.
Oh yeah, or Backward
Clock Society. Still not quite sure. Andrew, was it you that said, "Is this going to turn into Smashing Pumpkins versus the Smashing Pumpkins?" Someone said that.
Can we edit that part out of the podcast? I'm joking. Yeah.
There's also going to be a probably by the time that people hear this podcast, they will have seen the David Lynch Foundation video spot as well, so we'll be able to see the final version of that, or for some of us, the first time.
Yep. Footage from the drumming audition.
I'm guessing it's going to be totally different from the version that leaked.
I'm sure.
And we're also going to be concluding the Smashing Pumpkins challenge here shortly too. I'm still tickled pink by that.
Smash your Smashing Pumpkins pumpkin. For everyone listening, before the podcast started, I was teasing Jill that she's made some people feel bad because they carved really nice pumpkins and it felt bad that they had to smash them to enter the contest.
But I thought it was going to be so fun.
I started carving this pumpkin thinking this contest was awesome.
So if you still have your Smashing Pumpkins that you haven't smashed your Smashing Pumpkins yet, you can still send pictures.
Although by the time you hear this, the winner may have already been announced.
It's all mysterious.
By the time you hear this, you may have caught swine flu. By the time you hear this, Gothageddon Episode 2 may have appeared. By the time you hear this, James Iha may have formed a new band with a bassist named Mike.
You know what I just thought of, though? In all seriousness, by the time people hear this, the first song from Teargarden may have already been released, and all of our speculation on which song it is or should be will all be moot.
And we will be irrelevant.
How about breaking news podcast when that comes out?
Aren't we already?
That's all I got.
Yeah, Chris, end the podcast, please.
We don't want to talk about the breaking news that Linda Strawberry sings on the new Pumpkins material?
No.
Thanks for joining us this week.
Fine. Thanks for joining us this week, everybody. Our closing song is Porcelain of the Vast Oceans from Christchurch, New Zealand on March 24th, 2008. It has a line in it about disease, and with the swine flu talk, I thought that was appropriate. I know no one would have caught that if I didn't point it out, so...
No, it's not.
Now you know the story behind the podcast. Good night, everybody.
Right.
distant shoreline, she waves and arms to thee. As all found police are closing in the sleep, the dilly-dally of my bridal stay. The steam of my smartphones is giving me the power to be free. Till I'm down everywhere. It's in my slipstream of falling stars, the light of all that's good, the light of all that's true, to the frictions gladly I walk on the dawn with God and creations, with their fantasy. Inside
Hipsters United podcast is not affiliated with or endorsed by the Smashing Pumpkins, Virgin Records, or Warner Brothers Reprise Records. All opinions offered by panelists or guests of the Hipsters United podcast are their own and do not represent the opinions of the Smashing Pumpkins. All audio during the show is licensed for non-profit use per the terms and conditions on the Live Music Archive at archive.org. Intro music is from the Machina 2 album released for free download on the internet by the Smashing Pumpkins in September of 2000.